All right, now it's recorded. For those of you who didn't hear it live, I just said something interesting that you're never going to know about. I don't know if it was true, but it was interesting. It was interesting to me. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
What I'm just saying is that we don't sweat blood. I mean, Christ, you know, you have to be pretty intense to be sweat blood. I mean, you just don't sweat blood. So, you know, the emotion that Christ had.
Yep.
Is tells you he was telling how much he loved us. That he would go through all that.
For the, yeah, we're talking about the garden incident. The full participation of the Son of God, the incarnate God, in he's fully invested. He is all in on purchasing redemption for his people with everything he has. And you see it in that moment in the garden alone. That's part of it too. He had 3 disciples there. They couldn't take it. Only he could. But yeah, the sweating of blood fully encapsulates his full participation in his work as Redeemer. Captures it right there, yeah. And then it will continue through the crucifixion. Okay. I was thinking about this too. The point here being, well, lots of points here being, but now that we've arrived at Genesis chapter 7, we will, by Genesis chapter 7, the physical ruin, the world will be as physically ruined as it was morally ruined at the end of chapter 5 or the beginning of chapter 6 when the narrator encapsulates it. So eventually that physical ruin through the flood will catch up with the moral ruin, and everything will be ruined together. And now we're going to come out of the flood, and life goes on by the grace of God. And I think part of the grace of God, you know, there's this statement in Hebrews chapter 1, which we've read before. I'm interested in the one in the statement in yellow. God, after he spoke long ago to the fathers and the prophets in many portions and in many ways, in these last days, the latter days, has spoken to us in his Son, whom he appointed heir of all things, through whom also he made the world. So there's the creator, and he is the radiance of the radiance of his glory and the exact representation of his nature, and upholds all things by the word of his power, or his powerful word. And I was thinking about that last phrase there, and maybe we don't understand the full extent of his ongoing upholding presence and power, because frankly, I think the only way we got this far, thinking back on The Purge, the movie, and the idea, is his restraining power. And what would happen and what will happen when he removes his restraining power, which is coming on a day that he will choose. And then we're going to see, whoever is there, what human evil really is, just like before the flood. That's what I think, as off the top of my head. But there's not just his grace is not just on the believers. His grace is on the world, that he didn't destroy everything completely. And it was on Israel that he didn't destroy Israel completely until he had a little argument with Moses, and for the first time and only time in history, a human won the argument. And he agreed not to destroy the people of God. But his gracious restraining power, holding back what we are all capable of, collectively and corporately, in terms of evil and probably violence. If anybody wants to comment on that, they can do so.
I listened to a tape from Tom Herman yesterday that was talking about the depravity of man. He said a lot, we think we are above certain sins, but any sin out there, we're capable of it. It's God's grace that's holding held us back from those sins, but all humans are capable of all these sins that we think we would never do. We would never do that.
Yeah, there's a line of thought in the study of psychopathy, the antisocial personality disorder. And why aren't all, for example, why aren't all psychopaths, why do they not all manifest the same way? Why are they not all serial killers or all this or all that? And, you know, nobody understands the human mind. They all think, I said this last week, they think they do, but they don't. And maybe it's a matter of personal taste. Himmler couldn't go to the camps. Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS in the Third Reich in World War II, Germany. He couldn't go to the camps because he couldn't take it. He couldn't take the sight of it. You know, he can give the orders and look up detachedly look up the statistics and count the numbers like he's counting cars coming off an assembly line. Only in this case, it's deaths coming out of the ovens. He can do that like an accountant because he was a chicken farmer before he was what he was. But he couldn't go to the camps and face it and look at it. And maybe it's just a matter of personal taste. And so one guy has a thing for murder and the sadism of it. Another guy has a thing for winning at any cost. And he doesn't care about, he doesn't get any it's not his thing. He doesn't get anything out of murder like I don't get anything out of watching golf. I'm indifferent, you know. Maybe it's just a matter of personal taste. And that explains why we don't all have the same, why it's not a race to the bottom as we understand it for every single one of us. We're all just killing each other. You know, there could be lots of people who are just built different, but that doesn't mean their evil is less. It just means it manifests in different fashions. We are a mosaic of evil. And we all take our place on the grand canvas of evil. We all have our place on it. And we think our place is less than somebody else's place or less obvious or something. No, it's just different. You know? That's how I think about it. What's the saying? There's a saying about this in theology. What is it? It's I'll think of it. I'll think of it next week. About the fact that we're not all the same, but we're all equally evil. And I can't remember what it is. I was hoping he'd save me right now.
I'll come back next.
That's every few years.
Phil Dufferin, who was here 2 weeks ago speaking, he's from Covenant Life, said we're all evil. I don't think he made it up. We're all evil through the core. Not to the core, through the core, but it just looks different. So I don't know what I would have been in this day and age, Genesis chapter 6, but it would not have been pretty. I wouldn't have been trying to save everybody. I wouldn't have been that guy, I doubt it. Nobody else was, so I don't think I would have been either. Okay. Let's move on to, let's get into Noah, which I think is where we are now. So there's it's an interesting way that the author orders the narrative here. God will say, the narrator has God looking out upon man and seeing the evil. And he assesses it. His thoughts were only evil continually and so forth. The fivefold repetition of the idea there, the horror. Then he says something. And the Lord said, I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the land. That's interesting that he throws in there that he created man. I will blot out man whom I've created from the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things and the birds of the sky, for I am sorry that I have made them. So there's this universal corporate nature to the thing, where everything will participate in the consequences and the judgment against man for man's evil. Everything, including the earth itself. And then there's the but. Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. So he looks upon, the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth. But God saw Noah differently. Noah found favor in the eyes of God. So he sees in verse 5 the wickedness of man, but Noah finds favor in the eyes of that same God who saw the face of man's evil. And then there's this statement, we begin a new genealogy. These are the records of the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man. Nobody else starts that way in the previous genealogies. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his time. So he again distinguishes him. Everyone is evil, but Noah finds favor. Now reverse it. Noah was righteous, blameless in his time, in the midst of the evil. So he's highlighting this one little dot of light, anticipating basically the salvation of mankind. We talk about Abraham being ultimately the, God will bring a redeemer through Abraham, who comes upon the scene of the Bible in chapter 12. But you could trace it back to Noah. From this righteous man will eventually come the righteous one, Christ himself. Everybody else is gone. Yeah. Noah became the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. No mention of his wife. I just noticed that. But those are the 3 sons. So there's that little, not a sidetrack. He said Noah found favor in the eyes of God, and then he's going to say something about Noah, and then it's back to an encapsulation of where he was in verse 5. It's a repetition with different words. The earth was corrupt in the sight of God, and the earth was filled with violence. So the corruption and violence go together. Repetition, repetition, repetition. We talked about Hebrew writing and the style, literary technique of repetition. God looked upon the earth, which he'd already done up here. When he saw, God looked upon the earth again. The narrator looking at what God is looking at the mind of God as God looks upon the earth. Behold, the accent point there, it was corrupt. For all flesh had corrupted its way upon the earth. So a threefold repetition of this idea of corruption or ruin. I kind of like the word ruin better. It was ruined, or corrupted is the same. Corrupted, not just a little bit, but corrupted. Corrupted to the point of ruin. Useless. What was a very useful creation, suitable for God's purpose. We talked about this at the end of Genesis chapter 2. We talk about ordered. I started with that word. I changed it to useful. Because if you view the creation from God's point of view, he's not carving a statue for the sake of it. He's creating something that's suitable for his work and his handiwork. It's useful to the creator. That's why creators create, and there's only one of them. So he did something that was useful, suitable for his work. It got corrupted, meaning it's no longer suitable for his work, which means there's no point in it existing. It has no value. The universe does not have any let me see if I agree with myself on this. The universe has no intrinsic value. It has value because God, what's the word? Imputes value to it, holds it valuable or something like that. But apart from him, it's not like he's going to say, well, I created it, and now, since I created it, humans have value, so I can't destroy it, It doesn't work like he's the creator. We talked about this before. The creator has absolute authority over his creation and everything in it. If you're not going to serve me, if you're not suitable for my purposes, well then, what good are you? What's the point of you? Why did you think I created you? You think I'm stuck with you? Well, now that I've done it, I'm stuck with this lousy creation. So, I got to make the best of it. No, he's going to take that work that got corrupted And he's gonna perform another work which will redeem it and take it to heights of manifesting his glory that nobody could have ever imagined. That's how he's gonna make the most extraordinary omelet out of scrambled eggs. Here's the scrambled eggs. Only now we're gonna wait for the broken eggs. Broken eggs, not scrambled eggs. No, scrambled, no. What's the right analogy there? Some kind of spoiled eggs, I don't know, whatever. You're gonna go from spoiled eggs to an omelet, a masterpiece. And that's the mosaic of redemption. The whole Bible is the story of that move from this ruin to a redeemed creation that you see at the end of Revelation that Paul talks about in Romans 8. That's the work in progress, and that we are now a part of. And the centerpiece of that, of course, is the people of God, into whom we have been brought through faith in Christ. But anyway, that word ruin, 3 different times there, or corruption, or corrupt, and then violence. Then God said to Noah, so now look, it does the same thing, right? The narrator narrates the mind of God as he looks upon the corruption. And then the narrator has him speak. And he does that in 5 through 7. First, he narrates his mind in 5 and 6. Then the Lord said, I will destroy it. I will blot out man whom I have created. Then the statement about Noah. And then he does exactly the same thing. The earth was corrupt in the sight of God, filled with fire. God looked upon the earth. There it is again. Saw it was corrupt. Then God said, but this time he doesn't say to himself, I will blot out. He's already said that. We already know the mind of God. We already know its plan. Before he ever speaks to Noah, we know it. He's going to blot out mankind. We don't know how, but he's going to do it. And then he says to Noah, who all we know is his name and the name of his 3 sons. He's simply there. When did he appear to Noah? We don't know. Under what circumstances? We don't know. What else did he say to Noah? We don't know. He just simply appeared to Noah, said, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. And behold, I am about to destroy them with the earth, ruin them. I think that's the same word. You don't know Hebrew, do you?
No.
I think those corrupted, destroy, I think that's all the same word in Hebrew. I don't know Hebrew. I think I remember reading that in a commentary, but I got too lazy this morning to go chase it down. So I took this out, and then we're going to get into the orders. And it's time is of the essence. I mean, we've already know it's 120 days, 120 years, right? Where was that? A little early, yeah, verse 3, 120 years. So this is not penciled in, right? It's not pencil, this is carved in granite. There's a day coming, just like the day of redemption, just like the day of the return of Christ. We don't know it. Nobody else on the planet knew it except Moses here. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe Noah didn't have any idea. He's just working. He wasn't told. We assume he was told, okay, I'll give you 120 years. Or maybe not. Maybe, I don't think, does he in here? I'm going to give it, maybe he does. I don't know. Somebody can look through there. I haven't got there yet. But he just gives the orders and says, make an ark. And time is going to be of the essence, because I got a feeling that it started raining before he closed the door. I mean, it was right there. That'll move you. That'll get you moving, right? You go, you're moving, you're working, it's starting to storm, you're still working, you've been at this a long time, and you're starting to storm, and then here it comes, and you manage to get the doors closed as the onslaught comes. So that's my sense of what happened here.
He didn't know close the door, guy.
God closed the doors. There you go. Yeah. Go. Hurry. Yeah. Not a moment to lose.
The thing that it took him 100 years to build the tower. So 500 years old when it started it, and the flood came in 600 years. So, and he's, I'm sure that was proclaiming that let people know this is going to happen, because they were all laughing at him building an ark I didn't even know what a pole was. You know, all of a sudden, out in the desert, this big pole is being built. And they're just, you know, the Bible even tells us they were just laughing at them, ridiculing them.
Where is that at?
I think it's,
It's not in Genesis.
Sure, but, you know,
Well, there's Jesus' statement about eating, drinking, marrying, giving in marriage. You get the sense. It's awful familiar. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Here we are.
one
You know.
thing I was thinking about earlier too is, where you know, where it says, Noah walked with God, was three generations, Earth's great grandfather, basically Enoch. So the same thing about him, so.
Yeah.
You know, and since he's in that line, you know, I'm sure you heard stories about his great grandfather being walking with God. And I
Well-
think that inspired.
Well, he didn't,
Noah
he
to
could have,
walk with God too, so.
we don't, would he have been dead by the time Noah was born? I don't know. Well, it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't matter. It just, yeah, I take your point. It's a line. It's a line of descent of hope or faith or the worship of the God of creation or something like that. And it continues on through Noah. And so that we can arrive at this point. That's the reason that Enoch mattered. That's the reason that these people matter. They matter because in another sense, in another way, they were useful to God in some way. God has no obligation to value me because I have an obligation to, you know, the human obligation to value humans as for their own sake, I think, right? He's not, I don't think that applies to him. He's not under obligation to do anything for anyone whatsoever because they happen to exist. That's the lesson of the flood. If he can do that to them, he's the creator. Ask Job. You know, you lose every argument with the creator. By virtue of being the creator, you lose every argument. You have no standing before the creator, except in so far as he gives you standing. And in this case, he only gives you standing in Christ now. You have no other standing before him. So here it is. I pulled this out. One of these days I'm going to get in trouble for making stuff up like that. I pulled this out to give you a sense of it. This is 7 through 13, pulling out the relevant pieces. The Lord said to himself, I will blot out man whom I have created. And then through the narrator's eyes, the narrator is now talking. Now the earth was ruined in the sight of God. And then through God's eyes, God looked on the earth and he saw that it was ruined. So you have the narrator saying it, and then you have it validated by God himself, believing it, seeing it himself. For all flesh, now we're back to the narrator, for all flesh had ruined its way. Now God speaks again. God says to, first time he spoke to himself, now he speaks to Noah, I will ruin them. And we close out that historic decree against man and his evil. 13, verse 13. So that's very, very intricate. I've just mined the surface of this, but very, very intricate literary design here between verses 5 through 13. It's some of the most critical insight into the human condition in the entire Bible. That if you don't understand this about humans, a lot of the rest of the Bible is not going to make sense. Or even the activity of God is not going to make a lot of sense. If you don't understand basically 1 through 6, chapters 1 through 6 of Genesis.
Can this passage be used to talk to people that are asking why does God allow this to happen?
I'm going to go back to why usually people think there's an implied right, there's a It's a leading question. Because the premise of the question, why does God allow this? The premise of it is that he does it for a higher purpose for me or for humans. Why would God allow this in my life? Well, he wants this for you, you know. It's a human, it's a premised on kind of a human-centric answer. That's what everybody's looking for. And well, I kind of am.
I know, I'm just.
Yeah. Why does,
Try it that way.
I would reverse it. I would reverse the, if anybody said that to me, if I had my chance to go back to Crusade, Campus Crusade for Christ, which I was on staff for 7 years, I walked the halls of the dorms for 7 years. And came upon this a lot. Because it's also designed to put the evangelist on the defensive. Because who knows? So you get him now guessing and playing catch up and, you know, trying to almost apologize. It's almost like I'm in a position of, I find myself in the position of apologizing for God that he allows this to happen or whatever. And I probably would double down and say, well, maybe he didn't just allow it. Maybe he did it. Maybe you should be thankful that he hasn't already destroyed you off the face of the, why would he put up with you for another second? Who are you that the creator would put up with you for another second? That probably would, if I had a chance to go back, because you can actually do that. You know, you can turn the tables, because then it puts them on the defensive against God. Now they have to deal with the God of creation. They have to deal with the creator. The creator ain't going to give them answers to those questions. He didn't give answers to questions for Job. It's not like Job was going to be able to say, hey, creator, why did you allow this to happen? He tried that. What was the creator's response?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I welcome that question because I believe it's an opportunity to discuss the history.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying, you know, how do you answer the question, why does God allow evil, suffering, you know? And I don't answer the question. I'm going to change the question, or I'm going to reverse it. Why does on the contrary, oh man, says God to Job, who are you? Where were you when I laid the foundations of the world? Tell me if you have understood. Will the fault finder contend with the Almighty? That's the biblical, that's the sense in the Bible, that man sits before, all men sit before their God without defense and without challenge. And so, you know, they'll continue to discuss it, because I did that sort of thing. I would have these like this, and you turn the tables a little bit and make them confront their creator, because I view that as a challenge to the creator. Why does God allow this to happen? It's implied that he shouldn't have. Hey, God, you allowed this to happen. You shouldn't have done that. So you have to give me a good reason why you allowed that. No.
I see the corruption itself as part of history.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, now we're into it. I'm not taking the bait on, whether God caused the corruption, because that's, people will dodge that way too.
Yeah,
You know.
it doesn't matter.
No.
We have a plan.
Here it is. Yeah. You know, and that's a game that's a game that gets played too. Your God allows this and this and this and this to happen. To which I respond and did. Well, do you believe in God? Yeah, I believe in God. Okay, well, your God does too. You got me, I got you. We both have a God who allows this stuff, right? We both have a God who allows extraordinary amounts of evil. Everybody has to deal with it who believes in God. And the ones who don't believe in God don't have anything to say at all, because they can't even characterize it as evil. It just is. Like when the male lion comes into the pride, chases away the former male, the male that was the male of the pride, and then kills all the cubs. Wrong? The word doesn't apply to the animal kingdom. The word doesn't apply. What that lion did was wrong. Well, that doesn't make any sense to even, it's not a thing. And so, I don't remember why I said that now. I just started thinking about lions. I watched a documentary yesterday or
Well, they
something.
said he was gonna wipe off the animals and the people.
Everything. Yeah. So, you know, anybody, any variation of belief on God has the same problem. And if you think you're going to get out of it because by saying, I don't believe any God exists at all, you just jump from the frying pan into the fire, a blazing fire. Then it's not that with the atheists, it's not that, because they'll make the challenge, and I understand it. The atheist will say, well, now you're going to say, why don't I just go out and commit every crime and do anything I want? That's what you're going to say, right, Christian? No, I'm going to say, you can't give me a moral reason why I shouldn't do anything I can get away with in a world without a creator. There is no accountability. You can't give me a moral reason why. Nothing has value. Nothing has intrinsic value. Nothing has value beyond what value I impute to it. So on the question of morality, you sit silent and have no judgment, but they don't do that. Atheists are the most judgmental. Racism, sexism, you name it. They'll go off every other day on how the world isn't morally suited to them, and it ought to be different. There is no ought in a world without a creator.
Many of them will try to convince you that you're a good person in, some.
Yes, yes, and you can do that. You can do that in a relative sense in a world of civility, where there's accountability if you do wrong. Like we talked about this, where there's accountability if you do something, you get out of line. The cops will come and arrest you. Your neighbor will beat you up. The guy you irritated will burn your house down. Tends to keep people in line, and they get civilized, domesticated. You know, like an animal, like a horse. You domesticate a horse. You can domesticate these animals. Put them back in the wild, they go feral. And the world has a feral morality when it can. And we're reverting to that feral morality in cities all over the country right now. You're seeing feral morality play out, and we now can see what it looks like.
I think that this passage is very humbling for humans if we face the reality.
Yeah. It strips away any veneer, the whole self-image thing. The great fight of our time, one of the great in our nihilistic world, nihilism is the struggle of our times, since the post-World War II struggle of our times, which is that humans exist for no objective purpose, to no objective end, with no destination, no ultimate destination, no ultimate purpose. They just are. So any meaning, significance you find in your life, you will have to inject into it yourself, because it will not come from outside of you. That's encapsulates a large part of nihilism. That's the struggle of our time. What did you just say? Because now I forgot why I said that too.
Very humbling.
Yeah. So now, the great task, what do you want to call it? Quest of our time is self-image. How many books are there on self-image? Self-esteem, inner validation, inner authentication, What do you think Twitter and Facebook are all about? What do you think the 15 minutes of fame is all about? Why are people so distraught when somebody posts something on Twitter that's negative? Why do celebrities freak out when somebody doesn't like their movie? Or, whatever, I don't know, their hair. It's fragile self-image in a world where self-image is the only thing you have. What's that song by, it's in the movie City of Angels. It's by, I just want you to know I'm alive. I'll find it for next week. It's so on purpose, self-consciously encapsulates the struggle of nihilism in our times for a world that has rejected its creator all over again. I don't want the world to know me because I don't think that they'd understand.
Yeah.
When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am.
So close to saying Gary.
That's the, who's that group? The Goo Goo Dolls, yeah. The movie's the City of Angels. I'll find the lyrics. Actually, since we don't have any time left.
We just fall utterly short. We can think of all of our own righteousness and this.
It just, here we are again, right? History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. This isn't a dangerous search. Remember the name of this? Iris. So here's that song. Here's the lyrics. Let's see. I don't want the world to see me because I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. There's another line in here. You can't fight the tears that ain't coming or the moment of truth in your lives. When everything feels like the movies, you bleed just to know you're alive. That's really good. That right there is poetry. Yeah, about our time. Nihilism. You bleed just to know you're alive. It's numb, but when I feel pain, that's how I know I'm alive. That's extraordinary. If Nate's listening, he knows we talked about this before. We did a summer on this nihilism and narcissism, which is nihilism's child in our lives, inner child in our lives, narcissism, which we'll talk about sometime. Anyway, here we are again, rhyming with Genesis chapter 6. So we're going to have to get to Moses. Mix them up all the time. To Noah next week. But here it's the association between the corruption. He identifies the corruption as manifesting in violence twice. That's what's important. And it's probably on a path to complete destruction anyway. All he did was speed up the timetable a little bit. Because the humans were going to wreck it anyway, through violence.
When it says Noah walked with God and Enoch walked with God, that means God was available.
Yeah, he never departed.
Spoke with pain, and he
Yeah.
was there.
He always,
People were
a remnant. He always deals in remnants. And here you see it for the first time. Christianity has a remnant theology, and you see remnant theology. The Bible is a remnant revelation. It's God working through the small part. He works through the small part.
But he was there, probably, if he was there just walking with Noah, or Noah walked with God, doesn't that mean that was a possibility for others?
I don't think
Chose
so.
Not to.
No, I think what you were seeing in the rest of them was the result of man's reprobation inherited through Adam. He's already cast. Now it's possible that he was calling out and nobody was responding, but we have to fill in the blank on that. That's an argument from silence. All we have is Noah. Noah found favor, so he dealt with Noah. But you get the sense for the rest of it that it's a loss. He'd already decided it was a loss. He'd already been working through it as a loss from Seth on, maybe, or something like that.
But he walked with Enoch.
Through Seth.
Yeah.
Seth to Enoch, yeah. That line then began to call upon the name of the Lord in the son of Seth. What was his name? I forget his name. But that was the line. And you get the sense that the rest, Lamech, the rest of it went its own way and never came back. That's my sense of how to read this. He picked a line. Could be wrong, but
Well, God's still here on the third even today, so, he's never left the earth,
no,
even though, I mean, Christ knew he was gonna come back to this world even before he spoke to the world system, so. God's never left, but he just allowed this evil to continue, but one day he's gonna say it's enough, and he's gonna destroy this earth.
he's a wheat and tares God. And he always has been. This is our first. Through Seth, we see the first, separation between wheat and tares. Wheat and weeds or whatever a tare is. I don't know exactly what they meant by that, but. He's a wheat and tares God. He works through a remnant, and remnant theology will now work its way through the rest of the Bible. From Israel on, even within Israel. Let's go ahead and stop. It's enough. Yeah, we got off track again, but I thought it was interesting. So, okay, Stacy and Naomi and Gabe and whoever else is out there listening. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Gary.
Yep, see ya.
Thanks, Gary.
Yep.